Good evening. I trust you've had an agreeable day and are now safely tucked up in bed. I have a tale for you. After leaving Vienna, the Danube enters a region of singular loneliness and desolation, where its waters spread away on all sides, regardless of a main channel, and the country becomes a swamp for miles upon miles, covered by a vast sea of low willow bushes. The Swede and I, in our Canadian canoe, with gypsy tent and frying pan on board, reached it on the crest of a rising flood about mid-July. We entered the land of desolation on wings, and in less than half an hour there was neither boat nor fishing hut nor red roof nor any single sign of human habitation and civilization within sight. The island I found was less than an acre in extent, a mere sandy bank standing some 2 or 3 feet above the level of the river. Altogether, it was an impressive scene, with its utter loneliness, its bizarre suggestion, and as I gazed long and curiously, a singular emotion began to stir somewhere in the depths of me. Midway in my delight of the wild beauty, there crept, unbidden and unexplained, a curious feeling of disquietude, almost of alarm. Great revelations of nature, of course, never fail to impress in one way or another, and I was no stranger to moods of the kind. With this multitude of willows, however, it was something far different. Some essence emanated from them that besieged the heart. A sense of awe awakened, true, but of awe touched somewhere by a vague terror. Their serried ranks, growing everywhere darker about me as the shadows deepened, moving furiously yet softly in the wind, woke in me the curious and unwelcome suggestion that we had trespassed here upon the borders of an alien world. There was a slight depression in the centre of the island, and here we pitched the tent. The surrounding willows broke the wind a bit. Everything was snug for the night, the canoe lying turned over beside the tent. We smothered the embers of the fire with sand, and then turned in. It was neither the wind nor the river that woke me, but the slow approach of something that caused the sleeping portion of me to grow smaller and smaller, till at last it vanished altogether, and I found myself sitting bolt upright, listening. I sat there nervously, wide awake, as though I had not slept at all. Then suddenly the explanation leapt into my mind. A bough had fallen with the wind. Still half caught by the other branches, its leaves brushed and tapped upon the tight canvas surface of the tent. But when I got out and stood upright, I saw that the tent was free. There was no hanging bough. There was no rain or spray. Nothing approached. A dreadful discovery leapt out at me. For a change, I thought, had somehow come about in the arrangement of the landscape. It was not that my point of vantage gave me a different view, but that an alteration had apparently been effected in the relation of the tent to the willows. Surely the bushes now crowded much closer, unnecessarily, unpleasantly close. They had moved nearer. I crawled stealthily into my blankets. My companion, to all appearances, still slept soundly, and I was glad that this was so. Provided my experiences were not corroborated, I could find strength somehow to deny them, perhaps. The sun was high in the heavens when my companion woke me from a heavy sleep and announced that the porridge was cooked and there was just time to bathe. The grateful smell of frizzling bacon entered the tent door. "River still rising?" he said. "We shall be fortunate if we get away without further disaster." "Further disaster? Why? What's happened?" "For one thing, the steering paddle's gone," he said quietly. "The steering paddle gone?" I repeated, greatly excited, for this was our rudder, and the Danube in flood without a rudder was suicide. "But what—" "And there's a tear in the bottom of the canoe," he added, with a genuine little tremor in his voice. I approached to see. There was a long, finely made tear in the bottom of the canoe. I made a hurried examination of the tent and its surroundings. There were deep hollows formed in the sand, I now noticed for the first time, basin-shaped and of various depths and sizes, varying from that of a teacup to a large bowl. I'd once set the pitch melting, and presently the Swede joined me at the work, though the canoe could not be safe for travelling till the following day. I drew his attention casually to the hollows in the sand. "Yes," he said, "I know. They're all over the island, but you can explain them, no doubt." "Wind, of course," I answered without hesitation. We worked on in silence for a bit. That afternoon, while the canoe dried and hardened, we spent trying to fish, testing the leak, collecting wood. From 5 o'clock onwards, I busied myself with the stew pot and preparations for dinner, it being my turn to cook that night. The pot had just begun to bubble when I heard his voice calling to me from the bank. I ran up. "Come and listen," he said. A sound began to reach my ears, faintly, a peculiar sound. It seemed to come across to us in the darkness from the waste of swamps and willows opposite. I can liken it to nothing so much as to the sound of an immense gong, suspended far up in the sky, repeating incessantly its muffled metallic note, soft and musical, as it was repeatedly struck. My heart quickened as I listened. "The wind blowing in those sand funnels," I said, determined to find an explanation. "Or the bushes rubbing together after the storm, perhaps." Our meal was beyond question a gloomy one, and we ate it almost in silence, avoiding one another's eyes and keeping the fire bright. The curious sound became now almost incessant, and filled the stillness of the night with a faint continuous ringing, rather than a series of distinct notes. We sat smoking in comparative silence, the strain growing every minute greater. "There are things about us, I'm sure, that make for disorder, disintegration, destruction, our destruction," the Swede said once while the fire blazed between us. "We've strayed out of a safe line somewhere. There are forces close here that could kill a herd of elephants in a second, as easily as you or I could squash a fly. Our only chance is to keep perfectly still. Our insignificance may perhaps save us. I think they feel us, but cannot actually see us. We must keep our minds quiet. It's our minds they feel. We must control our thoughts, or it's all up with us. We must keep them out of our minds at all costs, if possible. Above all, don't think, for what you think happens." "We'll make one more blaze," I said firmly, "and then turn in for the night. At sunrise we'll be off full speed. Now, pull yourself together a bit and remember your own advice about not thinking fear." We were grubbing away in the middle of a thickish clump of willows where some driftwood from a former flood had caught high among the branches, when my body was seized in a grip that made me half drop upon the sand. It was the Swede. He'd fallen against me and was clutching me for support. I heard his breath coming and going in short gasps. "Look, by my soul," he whispered. And for the first time in my experience, I knew what it was to hear tears of terror in a human voice. He was pointing to the fire some 50 feet away. There, in front of the dim glow, something was moving. It was neither a human figure nor an animal. To me it gave the strange impression of being as large as several animals grouped together, like horses, 2 or 3 moving slowly. "I watched it settle downwards through the bushes," he sobbed at me. "Oh, look, my God, he's coming this way. Oh, oh." He gave a kind of whistling cry. "Oh, they found us." I gave one terrified glance, which just enabled me to see that the shadowy form was swinging towards us through the bushes, and then I collapsed backwards with a crash into the branches. My eyes were tightly shut. Something in my throat choked me. A feeling that my consciousness was expanding, extending out into space, swiftly gave way to another feeling that I was losing it altogether and about to die. An acute spasm of pain passed through me, and I was aware that the Swede had hold of me in such a way that he hurt me abominably. It was the way he caught at me in falling. But it was this pain, he declared afterwards, that saved me. It caused me to forget them and think of something else at the very instant when they were about to find me. He himself, he says, actually swooned at the same moment, and that was what saved him. I lost consciousness for a moment or two, I heard him say. You nearly broke my arm in two, I said, uttering my only connected thought at the moment. A numbness came over me. That's what saved you? He replied. Between us, we've managed to set them off on a false tack somewhere. The humming has ceased. It's gone, for the moment at any rate. We made our way back to the fire and put the wood on so that it blazed at once. Then we saw that the tent had fallen over and lay in a tangled heap upon the ground. We picked it up, and during the process tripped more than once and caught our feet in sand. It's those sand funnels, exclaimed the Swede, and look at the size of them. All round the tent and about the fireplace, where we'd seen the moving shadows, there were deep, funnel-shaped hollows in the sand, exactly similar to the ones we'd already found over the island, only far bigger and deeper, beautifully formed. Neither of us said a word. We both knew that sleep was the safest thing we could do, and to bed we went accordingly without further delay. When the sun was already high in a windless, hot sky, he at once got up and set about the preparation of the fire for breakfast. The hunting has stopped, I said. Everything has stopped, he said, because they've found another victim. Huh? I said, forcing a little laugh. Exactly, he answered. Come, he said. I think if we look we shall find it. I followed him. Look, he exclaimed presently. He was pointing with his stick at a large black object that lay half in the water and half on the sand. See, he said quietly, the victim that made our escape possible. His stick rested on the body of a man. He turned it over. It was the corpse of a peasant, and the face was hidden in the sand. Clearly the man had been drowned but a few hours before. We must give it a decent burial, you know. I suppose so, I replied. The Swede started to turn it, then abruptly dropped upon his knees on the sand and covered his eyes with his hands. I saw what he had seen, how the skin and flesh were indented with small hollows, beautifully formed, and exactly similar in shape and kind to the sand funnels that we'd found all over the island. When I turned my eyes again from his ghastly face to the river, the current had done its work, and the body had been swept away into midstream and was already beyond our reach. We shall meet again tomorrow night. Sleep well.